Hello, how are you? Welcome to Blender Live, Blender Today Live 2021. The year has started. Yes, it didn't start on the 1st of January. It starts on the first Monday when Blender Today starts. We have topics about what changed in Blender. It's been 2 weeks of holidays mainly, but there are new things. There's new features on cycles, outliner, geometry nodes, and a few UI stuff and a bit more. There is a 20 developers, like a list of the 20 developers by commit logs, by the number of commits that was collected last year and was published on Blender.Today. We're also going to see that. We are going to see the big Blender projects that are coming this year. That's another article that was published 2 days ago on a Saturday. Why on a Saturday? Well, because 2 days ago was Blender's birthday. Yes, Blender has a birthday, and it's basically the file, the modified date for the file that shows here. Let's try to find this commit by Ton because he mentioned it here. Let's see it. The 2nd of January of 1994. 1994. Blender, happy birthday. 27 years. Oh no, the 27 club. No. Gonna be fine. It's rock and roll. Blender is rock and roll, but in a forever way. Happy birthday, Blender. We are going to see, okay, who was the 20 people that were more like influencing the changes of Blender, like we're committing more last year. We're gonna see it in a little bit. Happy birthday, everybody is wishing Blender happy birthday. Isn't that great? 27 years. I'm reading you here. We are live as always. Still quarantined, so I'm at home, but still we're doing it live from Amsterdam. Close to the Blender Animation Studio. Really wish we could go back soon enough. And if you want to ask questions, I'm gonna be answer them towards the end of the show in Blender.Today, the community that is hosting this show. Thank you, Lapisi, for making the chat, the thread, and thank you all 7 comments already that are discussing this. All right, let's get to it. 20. Isn't it a bit unfair that this list is made by number of commits? Yes. On the other hand, what else? I mean, it's every area in Blender is important. There are changes that are like more visible than others, but they're all important, right? So okay, maybe just one metric, number of commits. Dalai is last in this list, but that's because he's been managing, right? He's been doing coordination, so he didn't get to code a lot, but still he managed to make it to the end of the list with 84. Then we have Nathan, the developer that worked on the outliner. I'm surprised that only in 90 commits during this last year he published so much, right? Probably the outliner was developed in many commits, and then you can like squash those changes into smaller commits, just so it's easier to review. Richard Antalik, also we got him in from the video sequence editor fame. Ray Molenkamp, he's been working mainly on platform maintenance. Aaron or Blendify, he's also working on the Blender manual and some UI tweaks here and there. Philip also doing a lot of bug hunting and bug triaging. This is super important. It's just going through the bugs, finding a fix or getting in touch with another developer, and yeah, super important. Jeroen, our own Jeroen Bakker developer, he's here in Amsterdam. He works at the Blender studio when there's not a pandemic outside, the same as Sebastian Barshik, but Sebastian in Mantaflow and Jeroen in lately in the viewport improvements, but in the past also in the compositor. Julian Eisel, the UI team person. The UI team, he's been working so much this year. He had the VR project for Summit of Code, but also he had the asset manager this year, the asset browser, which is already no asset manager, asset browser, which is already in Blender 2.92 alpha. Germano Calvacante from Brazil, the Snap mage, Snap wizard. Pablo Barro, we all know and love Pablo for his work on the sculpt tools and the painting tools. Antonio Vazquez, Chris Pencil fame. Sergey Sharevin, the Pendency Graph superstar, and lately working on the video sequence editor, and I'm particularly excited about that. Having a great mind like the sequence editor is gonna working on the sequence editor is gonna bring a lot of improvements, such as the ones he brought into the motion tracking, like speeding it up so much. I showed this a few weeks ago. Sifren Stuvel, the animation department, basically. Also USD, import, export, Alembic, and all that IO. The other part of the UI team, Hans Goody, he's been working on UI, but also now more involved in the geometry nodes project, bringing some nodes to life, but also work on UI sites like the search. This was a big project for this year. Brecht van Lommel, the architect of Blender, the chief architect. He's been he does mainly he coded cycles many years ago, and he's working on that, but also taking care of like pretty much every area in Blender. It's like overseeing everything. Bastien Montagne from France, he also works here at the studio some of the time, but yeah, not fortunately all the time. He works on the library overrides. He worked on the asset manager in the past, but he's taking care of all library ID stuff. Clement Foucault, he is the Eevee mage, also Eevee fame. He hopefully will bring Vulkan on this year, and there are some other interesting topics which we're gonna cover in the big Blender projects for this year. Jacques-Luc, the everything node man, we know him. Everything nodes, it comes from the function nodes branch that he's been working on for years, now leading the everything nodes project and the geometry nodes part of it. Campbell, it's everywhere in Blender, right? It's from the mesh tools to the tools system itself, to like cleanups, to like cleaning up everything and then maintaining everything tidy. We've seen his video in the Blender conference. He was one of the few developers that was in the Blender conference video. So yeah, those are the changes that happened in 2020. The developers that committed the most, but also there are many other developers that committed patches, and the patches are not our authors are not included in this list. So super nice to have one list, but it doesn't include everyone. So for the features, I added this list to all four releases of last year, and this year is 2021, when it's the year. This year is the year of Blender 3.3 and 3.1 and 3.2 maybe. So we have 292 now. Then, like now in February, then we have then we have 293 LTS. Then we have Blender 3 in August, and then we should have Blender 3.1 this year also. Haha, 3.1 already. Gee. So much excitement for this year. Or disappointment, we don't know. Maybe people are expecting Blender 3 to be completely different, but my it's open source is hard to predict, right? Maybe you have I don't know, maybe there's like a bunch of Pablo de Barros and Sergey Sharevins and Jacques-Luc waiting around the corner with the massive patches and awesome features that will make Blender 3 completely awesome. Or maybe Blender 3 is a good chance to get all the work that was done for 2.8 and 2.9 and maybe make it nicer for the people that are going to be exposed to Blender 3. I think it's going to reach more people, right? If you didn't use Blender all the time or like as often, if you didn't follow this like the nerd we are, following every change in Blender, But you see, you have an old Blender 2.4. Maybe nothing has changed from 2.4. Now they go in 2.9. Maybe there's nothing changed. But when Blender 3 comes out in August, people will be like, oh, 3. I had the 2.2. Maybe it's a good chance to change it. So yeah, excited by the amount of people that this will bring. So big Blender projects, everything nodes. We know what is everything nodes. It's everything that has to do with nodes. The first project to land in Blender as part of this mother project, which is everything nodes, is geometry nodes, which we're gonna see today. There is a new node that we're gonna see was added a few days ago. Then the asset browser, that's already in Blender, but it needs a lot more tweaks. It needs, I've been using it lately, and I can't wait to have a bit more time to, you know, give more feedback. And it needs some iterations. I think now that everybody's back from holidays, we can it's just gonna see some changes. The video sequencer is the one that it has the biggest changes planned, more like under the hood changes, things that will help other developers to contribute. The Blender sequence editor is one of those areas that is also super neglected over the years. I know everybody says the same. The animation people will say no, but animation is neglected, or the rigging will say no, rigging is. Every area has their developers are super enthusiastic, and some that are so old that you better not even touch it with a stick, and the video sequence editor is one of them. So luckily some refactors gonna make it perform better, but also make it easier for other developers to jump in and help out. Jump in, help out. That sounds good. Eevee, the real-time / almost real-time render engine. It's moving into the future. So when it was added, Blender was transitioning from OpenGL 2.1, I think, to OpenGL 3.3, the minimum required for certain graphics cards to be compatible with more newer game engines and viewports in general. So that was Eevee. But then, hey, Vulkan is the future, so we need to switch to Vulkan. That means that everything in Blender, every little button over here, this is all OpenGL, everything. This line here, OpenGL, this, everything is OpenGL, the icons, the everything. So all of that OpenGL calls have to be moved into a more, not Vulkan per se, but a more generic layer, right? So in the future, I don't know, 20 years when Vulkan doesn't exist anymore, or maybe something else that comes up, it can be replaced by just changing what hooks up to that layer. It's like a middleman in the. So next, VR. I cannot wait for that one. For this, I think I never showed it, but well, every year, I am from Argentina. Every year I go to Argentina to see my family and friends, but this year I couldn't. So the second best thing was to give instead of wasting money in the ticket, the plane ticket, I bought myself a VR goggles, VR device, so I can escape reality in this harsh winter in the Netherlands and see some VR. So I can finally, after all this time, I can try and be somewhere else for a little bit. All right, so it was, I've been playing Half-Life Alyx this the last few days, and it's just insane. I am a noob, by the way, with VR and in life in general, but VR in particular, I have no experience at all, so I'm super excited about trying this. But also, this, you know, for 2021, I mean, I should just go in and show you the new Blender features. But for 2021, think about what you want to do, and then let's talk about it towards the end of the show, because I personally want to dive into other softwares as well. As a personal thing, and VR is one of them. I don't know, we can talk about it later at the end of the video, so I don't bore people that actually want to know what's new in Blender or what's going to be new in Blender. People in the chat, somebody was asking, hey, can you speak in Spanish? I do this same show in Spanish towards in another channel, of course, just not to mess with this Blender official channel, but it's called BlenderToday, and it's in Spanish, and I do it 1 hour after this, and sometimes I drink beer there, so sorry, but that's an unofficial channel. It's not the official channel. It's just me hanging out in Spanish. Cycles. Oh, there is new. The focus for cycles is going to be performance, and that is great news. Really great news. But also I hope we can see some features. Some features. There are patches going around. The one I'm most excited about is light linking. I really hope we can see that happening sometime soon. Animation 22. Yes, it used to be 2020. Hopefully moved to 2022. But now there is funding. If you don't know, AWS, also known as Amazon Web Services, is now a sponsor, big sponsor, one of these patron sponsors of Blender. So, and their focus, they say, okay, we want to invest it in animation tools. So that is super good news. There's more to read here, by the way, in the big Blender projects. And pipeline development. That is mainly for making Blender work with other softwares, or also within Blender itself. The team at the Blender studio here in Amsterdam are working on Sprite Fright, the new Blender Open Movie project. This one is gonna hopefully, it's gonna make use of caches more heavily, overrides, but also maybe importing and exporting for the lighting team, for example. In the past, well, now even in the present, we didn't use a lot of caching, and that is a big issue. Why? Because if the shot is done, the animation is done, everything is done, the lighting artist shouldn't have to load the character and the rig, because that's slow. Rigs are slow to compute. Rigs can break. If something happens, some character was changed along the way, it can break. So it's too risky, and we suffered that in the past. So the solution for that is to have caches. So once you're happy with your shot, just dump it into a USD file or Alembic, and then the lighting artist can work on that, and it makes everything so much nicer. But yeah, let's see. USD in collaboration with the industry. Yes. Will this be the year we'll see more Pixar stuff included in Blender? Yep. Restructuring at the Blender HQ. Whoa, what is this? Blender ever-increasing toolkit doesn't spring into being all by itself. It's created by gifted minds, some in Amsterdam and many more in the wider community. Also supported by the Blender at the head, by the whole team at the Blender headquarters. The team is currently expanding in order to help grow every aspect of Blender. This is actually true. Yeah, well, actually true. Everything here is true, of course. But I missed this part in the first time I read this blog post. But yeah, the Blender HQ, it's expanding, and hopefully once everybody can go back to the team, I can go around with the camera and show how cool it is to have a building full of Blender people, which is amazing. But yeah, it's not the same online. All right, let's move into what is new in Blender today. I'm a bit late, but there's not so many things. Not so many. It's been holidays anyway, right? It's been a bit of holidays. Okay, let's start humble with just a few features. So, outliner. This is a tag. So when people add the tags at the end of the video, I can click. They can look for when I do an applause, and then do here my evil twin, and do the applause. All right. So, do you notice anything different here? The outliner has a connection with the since a few releases, the outliner and the properties editor have a connection, and not only just like actual connection, they're touching it next to each other. They also have a connection with what to show. So since the last release, since 2.91, now And 2.92, this changes for 292 actually. When you, for example, say you have a cube, a camera, and a lamp. So when you have, for example, I'm looking at the object settings. So if I go to the camera, see the camera and the light. These are always here showing the object settings. This is awesome because it means that I can, if I'm changing object stuff, I can just go back here and then just keep track of this. Then, but now there is also the feature that you can actually click on these icons to go into the settings of the camera. So the object data settings, I can see what is this mesh, have like the shape keys, vertex groups, or the properties of a lamp. Or I can click on the icon here and then go to the object settings. This is super nice. However, based on community feedback, this is not always what people want. Maybe they just don't want to have this synchronization. They just want to keep it separate. So now there is a setting. But also why? Because if you have, what happens if you have multiple outliners? So I have, for example, multiple property settings, which can happen. Some people like to have, for example, the camera settings here and the object settings here, or something else like render settings, and maybe they don't want to have that change. Well, now this is done automatically. This the default setting is auto. It means that if the outliner is next to the properties editor, these outliner changes are going to affect these properties editor, not the ones that are far away on the other side of the screen. Unless you go and click on this new icon that is on the top right corner, and you can choose sync with outliner on, off, or auto. Off is going to ignore all the changes that you do, all the selection changes that you do in the outliner. On is going to always sync whatever you have. So if I click on here on a lamp, you see it changes both, or the icon. And then off, you can imagine it just leaves it all alone. So it's it doesn't change. It always sticks to whatever you have. So if you always want to have the world, that's how it looks. So that it's pretty neat. But I like the auto version. So, but maybe, yeah, off mainly, for example, if you have the settings for the tools, then it's handy to have this always here. Did you know that you can also flip this toolbar to the other side? You can go right click and then flip to the right, and then you have it on the other side. Not a lot of people know this. All right, let's move on. Speaking of the outliner, this is better shown in the task itself. So here, now the outliner will also show you library overrides. Library overrides are these new, well, not so new, it's in 2.8, it was also in 2.8, but it's like the replacement of proxies, but much more powerful, because it means that you can override, you can change settings of or properties of objects that are or any kind of data that is linked. But not any kind of data yet, that's the point, that's the goal, but objects, for example, modifiers. And it's super handy because it means that yeah, you can keep most of the object linked, but maybe change maybe some settings in modifier, or the location, or the rotation, and so on. So it's gonna look like this, which is gonna look similar to how the list of modifiers look. It's gonna show library overrides and then the overrides, the list of each one of the overrides. In the future, the idea is to have lock overrides or like disable, so to expand this with more restriction columns up here. But for now, it's super nice because yeah, you can access that data everywhere. And there is also an option in the filtering where you can filter the overrides. And you should be able to see it here in the view layer section. There should be an option for override. It's mentioned here. There is also a filter option for the library overrides now, so they can be hidden. It's also available. It's only available in the view layer displayed mode though, like the other filters. That's why I didn't find it. All right. How is everybody going? It is an intro to Blender. No, this is this is the most no, this is the complete opposite of an intro to Blender. What we do here, what we show here every week is the latest changes to Blender, the ones that are experimental, the one that you download when you go here in this red fire section of Blender that it's a daily build. Actually, they are nightly, they are not daily because they're built at night. And you can find for each one of the operating systems, this contains the latest and greatest, but also could be unstable. But it's fun to see it. That's why I like I like making this show, because Blender is the only kind of major 3D software that can do this, that can show what has changed every day without worrying about anything. It's open source. So I like to show it. I like to show that it's possible and it's cool, and everybody should do that. Even if they don't release it, just show. It's great to build engagement with the community. So okay, there is a new node in the geometry nodes section project. We are going to see here the I don't have the thread, but I can actually just show it in Blender. Why not? Here, let's go. So let's go into, let's add a little, the other day I made a little Christmas tree. So basically I wanted to have a basic Christmas tree, and wait, there, the Christmas tree. So basically I want to have a little sphere in one of these circles. So that is super simple to do. Now you can also just basically make a sphere and then parent it to this object, and then use dupli vertices. That will be like the fast way of doing it, but then you don't have control over the rotation of each one. So I can do that, for example, instancing of this object, and then yes, you can do that. But then if I rotate this object, for example, if I make a little thing, they all have the same rotation. I can't randomize it here, and yeah, that it's a pity. Or not, because now we actually have the amazing geometry node. So for example, I can go into this this object, this circle, and then I can basically just add a geometry node editor, and I can take the geometry, and I'm going to point instance the sphere, and that's it. And that's it. So we get the same effect. But now, because we are in nodes, we can do anything. We can use a new node that is called point rotate points. I think it should be called point rotate, just so it's easier to read. But now, okay, it's called rotate points. And then you can just choose which angle to rotate here. For example, the point, you can... I don't get it to... Should I do it before? Yeah, here. There you go. And then you rotate all of them at the same time, unless you use a randomize attribute, right? I was talking about how it was impossible to randomize the rotation of each one of the points, but now you can. For example, I take the attribute randomize, and the attribute I want it to be rotation, so of each one of the points. And let's give it some more room to randomize. And that's it. Here, let's use, instead of rotate points by vector, you can also rotate by attribute. And then I'm gonna give it here rotation. And this one, I think I have to add it later. Or if I do it here, yes, basically. But no, actually, if I do it before, it's also the same. So I don't need to rotate them. I'm already changing the rotation here. This will be like rotating with another object, or with another with a different axis angle. Unless, well, this is stepping into uncharted territory for me. But yeah, it will be around the same concept. But the cool thing about the rotate points is that, yeah, you have a dedicated node focus only on rotation, where you actually have you can choose between the Euler or angle and attributes or values or vectors directly. Then let's see, the next topic I want to cover. Oh, okay. Cycles users, you need to sit down. Don't import chicken, people say in the chat. Yeah, yes, last time I tried importing a chicken and then something went wrong. All right, Cycles users, please sit down, take a seat, because it's going to be a big one. Well, it's bringing what it was already there before, but to Cycles. Vertex color baking support. This long-awaited feature was supported well, for other engines, but not for Cycles. Finally, it's here, and I don't know if this one, like Daniel Vazquez had a Blender add-on for this, for vertex color baking. Maybe this makes it obsolete, hopefully, in a good way. Or what else is I think everything should be covered. Like in the bake output panel, there's now a choice between image textures and vertex colors. The active vertex color layer is used for baking, so the one that you have here, like when you have a mesh in the mesh data in vertex colors, you know, you can have one with the little camera here. Well, that is the active one. That's the one that is going to be baking on, that Cycles is going to be baking on. So in the bake panel, now you can choose the here the target is going to be image textures or vertex colors. So super nice. I wonder if maybe it would be better to, no, you wouldn't be able to choose from here, because I wonder, like, if you can't change which one is the active one because the object is linked, unless you can overwrite. But yeah, let me know what you think. It makes Cycles faster. Well, baking makes Cycles faster in a way, right? Makes everything faster, because you're baking basically. You are you're cooking all of those changes, the colors and everything into vertex data, which is super fast to compute because it doesn't need any image textures, so it's very fast. So in a way, it makes it faster. Maybe not faster-ish so much, but less memory hungry. All right, and let's move. There's also another optimization for OSL users. So remove surface area computation for meshes with OSL. What does it mean? It means it's an improvement, basically. This makes viewport updates a little faster, and I'm happy when I read that. Then in the user interface / modifiers section, thanks to the developer from the community, Eric Abrahamson, Eric85, he made it so now each modifier can be copied to as many objects as we want. This is super neat, because right now in Blender you can there is an add-on, the copy attributes add-on, which allows you to copy from other objects to, for example, if you have multiple objects, the add-on allows you to copy all the modifiers in one object, right? That's the copy attributes modifier. It's yeah, it's ridiculous that Blender, like, we're gonna have Blender 3 and we don't have a copy Ctrl+C by default in Blender. You have to enable it in an add-on. That is a bit embarrassing, to say the least. But anyway, this new when I move the navigation bar here, so this new option is in each modifier, and it's in the drop-down menu. Hey, another good reason to have a drop-down menu is that we can add more features, such as this one. So the new option is gonna is called copy to selected, which is the same name as in the rest of Blender. For example, when you want to apply, I don't know, like the location here, you right click, copy to to select it, and then it will apply to all of the other ones, all of the selected objects. Now you can do that per modifier too. The difference between the copy attributes add-on is that that one copies all of the modifiers, and this one copies only one, so it's more flexible. So you can go here, copy to selected, and then all the cubes should have subserve. Bam. Yes. Awesome. Super nice. Thank you, Eric, for working on this patch, and congratulations on having another patch. And thank you, Hans, for reviewing this and editing slightly this awesome feature. All right, an improvement in this is not so much for, like, this is a setting called high quality normals. This setting was introduced many years, 2 years ago, when somebody reported this issue that if your mesh was too dense, like it has a lot of resolution, then you could have this issue where a texture will look like jaggy edges, like low resolution, and that is due to the low quality of the normals, or not low quality, but it's meant for speed. You don't always have this issue. So in order to save memory, Blender stores the direction of the normals in 10-bit, and there is a setting now that allows you, thanks to this bug report, by the way, thanks to somebody reporting this issue, there was a new setting introduced called high quality normals that was only for meshes, but now this also is available for volumetric objects, wireframe, metaballs, extracted curves, and curves in edit mode. So super nice. And this also seems to solve another issue in AMD drivers. So if you had an AMD graphics card, if you have an AMD graphics card, maybe an old model, and you had issues with normals or shading, try again. It should be fixed. And the last but not least, a little fix in the snapping. Now, I think the other day during the live stream, I think somebody reported this an issue about having about snapping in ortho view to be a bit too big, you know, like you move a little bit and then boom, you will move it just too much. I think it was reported here or in the Spanish live stream, and I'm super glad to see it. I think I mentioned to the person to say, like, hey, please report the issue, and it was reported and now it's fixed. So thank you for making Blender a better place. Awesome. All right, cool. I'm done with the yes, I'm done. I had some comments in case we were lacking content about the Sculpt Dev branch that Pablo is working on, but I'm gonna not mention that because I don't want to cover changes that are yet not in Blender Master, so you have to compile the branch. So I try to cover everything that it's in Blender right now that everybody can download and try. All right, let's see how many more questions we get in. Gonna drink a mate. 17 questions, not too bad. All right, so let's see. Is for my voice to recover. How's everybody in the chat? Everything is going well? Better GTX 3080 or 90? I will go with the 3080. If you don't need so much memory, the difference in price is just too much. The 3090 is mainly if you need the amount of memory, like 24 gigs or so. That's way too much. If I had the money and I was building a PC, I would go with the 3080. And when people say PC, it means personal computer. It doesn't mean Windows computer. People are asking, what kind of PC do you have? I have Linux. That's not a PC. It stands for personal computer. Personal computer. You could even say that a MacBook, it's a personal computer, right? All right, let's go with the first question by the creator of the post, Lapisi. Hello, peeps. I've been wondering, are there any plans for upgrading the armature from the 2.7 design to something more modern? Rigging is in an okay state, but has a lot of left to be desired. Official rigs coming with large custom scripts is a big red flag, I feel. the armature, the 2.7 design. You mean like just the visual design? If you have a, I don't have big issues with how the bones look. Or you mean the visual design or actually the tool design? Mockups, please, and in right-click select here. 3D Illusions ask, hey, at the end of the last proper conference, so 2019, Tom had an audience vote which resulted in a promise that the compositor will be the next area to get overhauled. Is there any news on that? Well, the news is that the compositor itself, the idea is to move it to real time, more like Eevee works, you know, more like in the viewport that you can just do it over there. No news as far as I know. More than that, I was wondering if the Manaflow smoke and fire simulations also calculate motion blur, because when I was doing some tests, I didn't notice any motion blur. They should, right? There are more cases where motion blur is an issue. Imported Alembic files with changing topology. You're sure? Have you tried with the latest Blender, like in beta? Because I remember reading something about Alembic and motion blur lately. But yeah. Next question. Antoine Baga. Hi Pablo. Concerning the asset browser, is it planned to be able in a future update to add an asset to a library without having to save the whole blend? To be able to simply move an asset in the asset browser to add it to a custom library. In any case, the 2.2 is going to be a big leap forward. I really wish we could have that. I've been using the asset browser the other day, and that's the first thing you do, right? Like that when you are, like, for example, I had an asset browser list here. And first, this the section there should be a way to see all of the assets. Now you have to click to filter those assets. This is a category. It's a source list. But maybe, yeah. Well, in the file path you can't even unselect it. But anyway, I have this repo that I made, and there is somewhere here. There are some images. You see, but I should be able to see all of them. I personally would like this to just be a tree representation, like an outliner of folders on my hard drive. I don't know if we can do that, or maybe just a list of tags, and then tags with subtags or something like that. Maybe I don't know. But for example, yeah, the images. There's a lot of work to be done. These are some HDR images that don't have any thumbnails yet, and I wanted to drop them in the shading editor as a world, and yeah, you can't do that yet. There's many things, but as you mentioned, yes, I would like to be able to drag an object or drag any kind of image or material, just drag it here, and it would be great if you would just make it. The thing is that when you mark an asset, now it makes it in another, in the current file. It doesn't make it in this file, in this repository. You have to open the blend file and save it. So there are many workflow changes that need to be done, that hopefully they will be done soon enough. There is a thread. There is in the developer.blender.org. There's a section related to assets here on the sidebar, and you can read more about the sub-project for asset browser. But yeah, those are the changes that I hope to do, and I think they're similar to the ones you were hoping for. But yeah, let's see. Mile Porte, hey, edit modifier. Happy New Year, Pablo. Happy New Year, Mile. Watching a tutorial, I saw that 3ds Max can access the geometry altered by modifiers through a particular modifier called edit modifier. This kind of possibility could be a game changer in Blender. Do you think a similar feature will ever be implemented? Yeah, I don't see why not. I don't see why not with the new geometry nodes concept to have a node to make it editable, like edit poly, edit mesh. Yeah, I don't. But I don't know anything about the under the hood, so maybe I'm missing big challenges there. All right. Next question. Hi, I heard down the grapevine some rumors regarding the grapevine. That's like it's an I like the expression that I heard on the grapevine some rumors regarding a change of direction in demand flow department. Are you able to share any news on this? No, I might be missing some of this. No. Actually, on Twitter, Blender Sebas, he tweeted recently a change, like during the holidays, he tweeted some work he was doing here, viscosity, like on Christmas Day Eve. Then yeah, he was sharing all this new stuff. So I don't know what change have you been reading about, but he's still working on it. So he's the main developer working on it. So no, I don't know. I might have to walk around that grapevine. What are those rumors? The rumors is only what you see on developer.blender.org. Anything else, Discord, forums, it's just noise. If it happens here, then it's something you can have something, yeah, like legit. On the developers chat, on Blender chat, okay, on the Blender Coders channel by Sebas himself. I don't know. Yeah, okay, then it's not okay, Dalai. Well, but Dalai is coordinator of the project. Sebas is also. Then those are not rumors, those are facts. I bet. If Dalai or Sebas said, he is the main developer, so it's not. Yeah, so it's not a rumor. It's an actual statement by the developer working on that. So I guess you can trust in that. Dizzy8 says, "Hi Pablo, thanks for Blender Today shows. Thank you for watching them. I'm super happy to be making them again." So okay, at the right click select page and the dev talk page, there are several proposals about the possibility to add modifiers to collections. I guess that's supposed to be part of the library overrides. Yes. And do you know anything about that? If and when and how it might come to Blender? Yeah, that was one of the designs that we had in mind for a long time, like adding modifiers or adding any kind of override to the collection, right? When you link a collection, you should be able to override certain settings, and that requires a bit more design. I don't know the current state of that. So far, the library overrides have to be made work better in the current, like we don't have for materials, for example. So I think that has priority over the collections at the moment. And also collections internally in Blender, collections, these kind of collections, they are data blocks, just like an object, camera, or a lamp, but they are not exposed as such. You don't have settings here for a collection. In the future, we might see a collection context, but then maybe that's where the overrides could exist. But so far, no, not that I know yet. All right, next. Hello, Pablo. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Slow Kid. I have a request to make weight paint visualization a toggleable option in the overlays. Wait, isn't it? Like when you are in weight paint, you can change the overlay. Yeah. Okay, so what is the making it possible to see it also in other modes? This will be extremely beneficial, for example, when we use the vertex weight proximity modifier. where the weight paint is driven by another object position and scale. But we need every time to click on the first object and switch to the weight paint mode to see the result. Mitch Sinev already made, okay, I see what you mean. Just to see it always in a, yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think it's important for vertex groups, but for anything really, any kind of attribute. That's the key word here, attributes. We should be able to see attributes. So the same way we see vertex, maybe there should be like weight paint or attribute, and then you choose which attribute to see. So for example, vertex color is the attribute of a vertex, is a color attribute of a vertex. But you also have you have weight paint, so that is the weight of each vertex that it's represented with a color here with the well, actually you don't even see it, with a color, with a blue-ish tint. You could also see custom attributes that you make with the geometry nodes. All these attributes should be visible in a way. So maybe we should just have here a toggle to choose which attributes. Next, but I'm gonna leave this open here to have a look after the live. Salener say, hey, happy new year. Is anyone working on getting grab handles in the corners of the viewport windows? Right now, deleting and making new windows is absolutely fiddly, and it has never been ever since the rollover to 2.8. Was it really not that important? I don't know exactly. Like, okay, I don't know if it's been. Let's open Blender 2.7 here. So I think the section here, and the section in 2.8 is about the same. Like the size is the same, but most people have this feeling that it's easier in 2.7 because of these grab handles, which they are there because in 2.7 you could only scale certain, you can only change certain corners, right? Like the top right and the bottom left. So that's why it needed to have an indicator. In 2.8, doesn't make sense to have an indicator because it's every corner the one that works the same. So it really, like having an indicator on every corner would be just adding noise, visual noise, I think. I could be wrong. Maybe it's the, I don't know, the rounded corners that makes it, that actually took a few pixels out. But there was work being done, and I hope we don't even have to go to the corner, and we can have one of those patches that are laying around that allows you to use a shortcut to split and resize the windows with just a modifier key, with holding one of the modifier keys. Or you can also just use right click and use the shortcut here. Can you add a shortcut for this? Like if I add, I don't know, let's do F7 or here, like add a shortcut F7 for vertical and F6 for horizontal. Let's see if it, well, yeah, it works. Nice. I didn't know you could do that. Yeah, that you could that it would work. Some shortcuts, they don't always work because they depend on the context, but actually this is a great solution. Yeah, super nice. All right, let's continue. No, yeah, it is important. Just saying, it is important. It's the way you split windows in Blender. It's super important. All right, I'm already past time. It's 6:01, so I'm gonna do 5 more questions. Well, I already have this one here, but then I'm gonna jump into the bottom to cover the ones that were asked before. So, okay, question number 5. Delta says, hey Pablo, I discovered that you, Blender.Today and Sprite have an item on Wiki. What? Really? Okay, so what do they say? Pablo Vazquez, employee at the Blender Institute. That is correct. Spanish. I could edit myself in Spanish. Cringy. Wow. How do you have my birthday? Okay. One reference. Maybe there is something. What? Oh, because I said it in the live stream, of course. Okay. BlenderToday, my notable work. Thank you. That is so nice. My website. Social media followers. Who follows this thing? Who adds those? Identifiers. That's kind of creepy, but yeah, super nice. Wow, my channel is from 2007. That is super interesting. I didn't know they got so much info. Blender.Today, yes, that is a show with news about Blender, but it's also a community. It's called Blender.Today, where we share news. And the goal of Blender.Today is to be like some kind of Blender.Today, which is some kind of Blender Nation, but made by people, by you. Like everybody can post, like a Reddit, if you will. And then Sprite Fright, super nice. All right, thank you. Okay, for the person who suggested to upload the Blender splash screen, super cool, thank you. All right, next, actually there is 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly 5 items were left, so let's read them all. Alexei says, hi Pablo, are there any plans to expand the UI UX team and also dedicate more attention to rethink the end panel? It has too many issues which are discussed again and again over the span of 2 years, I think, at Dev Talk. I believe it's an important functionality. Yes, actually we were discussing this recently in the user interface team, actually. No, not the team, just the channel. Yeah, people have been asking for this a lot. There is even this add-on that I saw this video the other day that looks like a little hack to rearrange the sorting of the tabs. But it's yeah, the name is wrong. It's a free fix for your end panel. Like simple tabs. These are not about tabs. What you see here in the sidebar, they are called categories. They're not tabs. They're categories. So maybe it should be renamed to something like, well, yeah, it is a tab, but each tab corresponds to a category, which is what you specify when you make an add-on. If you add a category type whatever, it's gonna make a whatever tab there. So yeah, it's Blender's fault because the size of the tabs can get too small, and you can't really scroll in here. You can't like you can here in this in the properties editor that you can scroll up and down. You can't do that in the end panel. So that is what it needs to be fixed. But this is a great little add-on. I think it would be even better if it wasn't so much like with the red icon there in your face. I think it would be better in the user preferences, or maybe as an operator here in each editor. Is this per editor or is it for all the editors? Because if it's per editor, then it could be here in the view maybe, or like or in the view area and then reorganize categories. Maybe it should be called reorganize categories or so. But yeah, it's a band-aid. It doesn't fix the issue that tabs can be too small and not scrollable in Blender. So that's what needs to be solved. Also here in this thread, there is many mockups about how to fix the issue, or how to like have drop downs and have like a selector, like a UI list, which is all cool, but again doesn't solve the issue of non-fitting because the tabs are too small. So yeah, to the creators of this add-on, if you rename it to be category, like organize categories or so, remove this icon here. It shouldn't be that like red and in your face next to the object. It has nothing to do. There's also no other settings here to control the visibility of the editor. They're all in the view, and ideally you wouldn't access this so often, right? You would change it once and then save it in your preferences, in your settings. And also, if this was made more generic for every other editor, right? Every editor has an end panel. the, well, we see it here. We see here how tiny and unreadable these tabs are. Also, they can't be dragged and rearranged, right? That is another issue. But yeah, the little add-on, this add-on actually could even make it into Blender as an organized categories setting, the preferences or so. All right, next question. WW2. Any plans for Eevee to add support for virtual sets like what they're using the Mandalorian? Virtual set. I think I remember seeing a video about it, but no, like that's not Eevee per se, but that's more like, yeah, that's something you can do already, I think, with some fiddling. I think maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can send a link. And Getty Rush asks, "Hi Pablo, why is the Git and experimental servers going so slow? 600 kilobytes or so. Takes forever to download or compile." That's strange. I never had issues with it. Well, experimental servers, if like sometimes people are downloading a lot. Blender, like there is thousands and thousands of downloads per day of these builds and the branches, experimental branches. So it's always more recommended that you compile your own. But Git shouldn't be too slow. Let's see Blender source. I have some changes here that I'm gonna stash, and then Git pull. Or, well, I'm already up to date. But if you compile Blender, little tip, you can do make update, and it's gonna do git pull, but for everything in Blender, like all the SVN, all the individual little repos inside. Hi Pablo, is Blender 2.91.1 coming? There was a discussion going on around about that actually today. I read about it, but I don't know the outcome. I will let you know next week. But I don't think we should have it. I personally think we shouldn't have a 2.1.1 unless it's like super needed, because the next release is like next month. So and we don't have an automatic updater unless you use Steam or Snap or Windows Store. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't like to distract developers from that. Unless it's like super needed and it's crashy or something. But 2.92 is gonna be super nice. So I think I'm gonna, well, it's already 10 minutes past, so I think I'm gonna call it a day. How was 20.21? How has it been for you? Yesterday I was playing with my first blend of the day was actually the logo of this channel. I wanted to do it. I wanted to do a to renew the graphics and stuff, but I didn't manage because I spent too much time playing with this with this silly logo. I made a rotating. Well, I made a little jump animation. I wanted to use it here in the corner and change the graphics and stuff. But so far I didn't. I don't know. I mean, I can show you, but I was trying weird stuff. I was trying like a little alfajor. I don't know if you know alfajores. Well, here's where the BlenderToday ends, and and this is where me babbling about my daily life works. So alfajores, but also maybe with other food that people eat, like a cannoli or like or sushi or like little ones, and then having the I think that it's slow because of the volume, but yeah, maybe, I don't know. Here now it's faster, maybe, but and even didn't look too bad. I had a background, an image in the background, and it was like a little alfajor. Anyway, I will see if I work on it and then I do something with it. All right, let's wrap up. so far it's been great. I mentioned in the past, so my goal for this year, well, many goals, but okay, yeah, do a little bit more Blender, but also try other stuff. I wanted to try different things, right? So you know, one of the sponsors that we got recently is Facebook, but they are sponsoring because of Spark AR, the team that works in the AR stuff, augmented reality, so like filters, Instagram stuff. So I made a couple Instagram filters that was super fun, and all of that is because I tried Windows. If you watch this show, you know that I use Linux for most of my life, and recently I switched to I go to Windows more often to play games. I play Cyberpunk and Half-Life Alyx and other games that I can play in VR. So I've been, in Windows, it's overwhelming the amount of tools available. I was playing with Quixel Mixer, which is free for making textures by Epic. Then Spark AR for making filters. I want to play with more tools that are available for everybody, of course, but gee, it's overwhelming, the amount of features. Yes, if you use Windows, you probably know that already, but I use Linux all my life, so there are many tools that I cannot simply use. So it's good to try other things, to see what the world is using out there, to, I don't know, try game engines for having something in mind, right? There is a start of a new decade now. Let's hope this is a decade where Blender gets some kind of interactive mode back, some kind of, not game engine, but interactive engine. That it could become a game engine once we have everything nodes, but that would be a nice goal for this decade. Everything nodes with interactive mode. That would be super nice. Branching out is good. Yes, I see the comments. I actually was criticized a lot in the past by some people saying that the Blender, because we don't, at the studio, at the Blender Animation Studio, we don't use anything else than open source. And that is great. That's good, because that forces us to push, right? To push for open source. But yeah, on the other hand, you also don't see what the rest of the world is doing. So at the studio, everything is open source, but maybe at home I can look at what people are doing out there. All right. It's time to wrap up, and let's go with style as we always do. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thanks for staying until the end. Another show has passed. Next week, more Blender Today live.